Hi. Well, there's no sports on television, and we're tired of watching last year's golf. And the only thing going that nobody really needs an audience for is bowling, because nobody pays any attention. I used to work as a pin setter. You know that. I mean, that's how far back I go. I used to set the pins by hand before Brunswick came along. Not in New Jersey, but the Brunswick system, which was semi-automatic. But in the early days. And I used to tell everybody that I recorded over there because you could hear a pin drop. But that was just to get a bad joke in. Anyway, the bowling is very big in Buffalo. And I think that Buffalo has been known for so many things. And of all the things in Buffalo that I could think of, the Niagara Falls, the Erie Barge Canal, the home of General Mills, Chevrolet, everything it's known for, the thing that is most remembered is the chicken wings.
Yes.
And wings were made famous by Frank and Teresa. There was a bowling alley in Cheektowaga, New York, which is a very Indian. It's the only Indians that did not get a casino, because they were Polish Indians, the Polish tribe, and they have some sort of a connection with the wing business. So they had a Polish Indian tribe that sold chicken wings in a bowling alley.
It never ends.
Buffalo is a little bit advanced in the culture. Now, here's the point. The point is that as we are taking all these statues down all over the world, now I see they're catching on in London. They want to do this. See, people are stupid. They want to erase history. You're going to erase history, you better kill the Queen. But, of course, this is Pride Month, so you'll have a hard time finding the real Queen. Anyway, the thing here is that we really need to do in Buffalo is we need to take down the statue of the tomb of the unknown bowler. That's got to come down. And there's definitely a movement. And I'm going to have one myself right now.
It appears that way.
So we got Jay Sorensen here, who is the guy that has to put up with me for life. Hi, Jay. How are you?
Hiya.
It's good to have you on your Zoom. And as always, you always sound better than me on the Zoom. Why is it that your mic is always better than mine?
You know what? I'm not a technician. I couldn't begin to explain that. I may be closer to my phone than you are, or your device. I'm
wearing this thing, this earplug. I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. There it is. How's that better?
Much better.
Yeah.
Well, you can't hold it. You can't hold the thing. Yeah.
Oh, God.
There you go.
Oh man, I'll tell you, this technology, you got to really be somewhere in the mix here in this generation. Did anybody hear any of my bad jokes, or was the mic working? Testing.
I'm probably the only person who still listens to those bad jokes. So.
Oh yeah, and you look like you appreciate them.
I do.
It's a good way to stay employed.
See, that's exactly. I'm a good sidekick.
You are. And now we have someone who is actually a villain in the play. He's radio's worst friend, Rob Milford. Hi, Rob. How are you?
Well, thank you, Joey. And how's your mama? I mean, what do you want me to say? Is this my radio's worst friend? Well, good.
Yeah, you are. Well, you keep getting fired for all the wrong reasons. These idiots don't know quality. They never have.
Oh, well, I asked, why do we do this? And they shut me down. It's pretty simple.
Well, here's the story. It's a background. You got to have a grabber, and people got to say, what the hell is he talking about? You know, just like at the checkout counter at the supermarket. You know, you're not going to buy that paper unless it's got a headline. So here we got Rob Milford. Now, Rob is living in Florida, and he has become the lobster king of Florida. So that's something good. Now, the other thing about him is he started in radio. And in radio, he has become probably, I would say, the Indiana Jones of newsmen. He is fearless. He's gone to every front with the microphone that he could possibly cover, and maybe a camera sometimes. But, you know, he's gone everywhere that he can. And every time he does these exposés and these revealing stories, and he's guilty of having the truth. So they fire him. This is Jack Nicholson disease. You can't handle the truth, right?
Right.
So now, how did you get? Let's start with this. They always ask me if I nail my shoes to the door. So you got to take the heat of a bad moment. You know, when I got fired, I nailed my shoes in the door and said, "Fill these." You know, that story. I've never heard the end of it. And I heard you carried a weapon through an airport. Is that right? Is it? Did
No.
you have a gun with you or something? What was
Did
that?
I what?
Have a gun?
There was a firearm in my briefcase that wasn't my firearm. And yeah, that was a pretty bad day, Joey. Thanks for bringing it up. I appreciate it, buddy.
No. It's
12 years, boom. You know, it's
no. That's not. I want the audience to know how brave you are and how daring you are, not how dumb you are. You're not dumb. Except, why did you carry that guy's gun? What are you, dumb?
Thank you. Thanks, Joey.
Whose gun was it? Whose gun was it?
Actually, I was moving my girlfriend back from Washington, where you need one of those, to Pittsburgh. And when we left her place, as we're packing everything up, I simply stuck it in my briefcase because I knew I would have that with me the whole time, and it would be right, you know, on the back seat or whatever. And I didn't think anything of it. Got home, that was the first thing in the door. Unloaded the truck the next day. It was still in my briefcase. Never took it upstairs. You know, when you leave for work at 4 a.m, like a lot of us do for a lot of years, it's just there. You don't realize. I mean, there's a recorder and a microphone and a mic stand and mic cable and notebooks and batteries and everything, and you don't even know it. It's a little gun, but the people at court were not. They thought that I was actually testing their security because after I left on Friday to fly down to D.C., a woman walked into the courthouse. I knew nothing of that when I got back on Sunday, and that was it. I mean, and that's all she wrote. I'm done. That's it. Adios.
So what station was that?
The legendary KDKA.
#1 station in the country.
First radio station, yep.
Yeah. So you got bounced from the oldest radio station in the country.
Well, Joey, you would appreciate this. It's the only radio station where they say, we've always done it this way, that actually counts. It actually means something. And they did a lot of that too. But here's the good news. This is the centennial year of radio. November will mark 100 years of radio. And I happen to have a supply of bricks from the original building where the original broadcast took place. And if anybody would like to buy one of those bricks, it has a plaque on it, as a certificate of authenticity. They're $100. So just let me know. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
So you're serious? How do we get in touch with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. It's, you know, Rob Milford on Facebook. Yeah. I kind of look like this.
Now, Jay, are we supposed to trust Facebook or not trust them anymore?
Well, anymore, I'll tell you, the more I'm finding and the more I'm hearing, the big companies are even getting mad at Zuckerberg now. And I'll tell you, you know, I saw this coming. I saw this guy as being not as smart as he thinks he is. And he started pulling some shenanigans and also didn't have a lot of insight into oversight. And I don't want to get into it because again, it's political, but the fact is that indeed Facebook is an issue right now, a big issue, and they've got a big one on their hands, and they're going to have to do some real fast backtracking to fix this.
No, we're on Facebook with this broadcast, you know.
I understand.
People may never see this.
What are they going to turn? Are they going to turn us off because we're just speaking about it?
Yeah.
That would be more dangerous than anything that they could possibly think of doing.
Now, Rob, are you familiar with any of this stuff that we are going through some sort of an electronic challenge?
Truthfully, I have ignored. I mean, for the last month, it's been 5 weeks now since things got really horrible in Minneapolis on that Memorial Day evening. It's been 5 weeks. I doubt that I watch more than an hour or two of television, not just news, of anything a week. It's just too damn annoying. And I'm too, as my mom and dad used to say a lot, I'm too old to have to put up with this stuff. Well, actually, they didn't use the word stuff, but you get the idea. I don't want to be censored here. And it was so repulsive to me, so repulsive that I just had to turn it off. I was thrashing at night, and I'm angry about what's going on. Mostly I was angry that I wasn't out there covering it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm getting at. Jay, do you know anything about Rob's reputation?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I've done some reading up, and I had probably heard him more times than I realized. Yes, I am aware. And I also am aware of the things that he does for younger people and younger broadcasters. And I admire his way of which he's able to take them under his wing by showing them how to do this right. Look, I was 17 when I got into radio. A lot of you watching perhaps were very young when you got into whatever business you chose. And Rob said something very interesting in a speech to a bunch of folks a while back. And he said, if you have a dream, you go for it and do it. And don't ever let up. Don't let anybody tell you not to do it, because that is the worst thing you can do to someone. If somebody had told me, oh, you can't be in radio, you're too young, or you can't be in radio, you don't know anything about doing news. Well, I ended up doing news, and I learned that it was who, what, where, when, how. The why is I let the columnists do that. The people who are writing their opinion do the why. Because when you get into that fine line of why, that's where I think people are getting into trouble today. I think that's where a lot of the tension is, because news on television and radio and other places and internet is so skewed now and so biased in many cases. Not all, of course, but in many cases. And I'd like Rob to address that.
Well, you know, you're right. And I'm not really sure when news took up advocacy. If anything, maybe we could blame Geraldo Rivera. Jay, we're in this conversation. We're all relatively the same age. Geraldo Rivera, his long hair, his mustache, he didn't look like a standard button-down reporter. And he goes undercover in this mental hospital in New York, and that's where he made his bones. That was, what, 68, 69, 70. And all of a sudden, he's ABC's Wonder Boy. They give him a slice of a Thursday night news show. It might have been called Good Night America. I'm trying to remember all this. But now his profile is raised. I've run across him 3 or 4 times over the years. He's always been obnoxious. He's shorter than you think. His dye job doesn't look as good as he thinks it does. And I don't think he should pay his plastic surgeon nearly as much as he does. Wow. So there you go. Other than that, and
so you're really buddies.
Crusading. He's always trying, and it's like, prove it. Come on, make something happen. Yeah. And that's not my job. My job is to go say, hey, that smoke you saw over there was a fire, and the fire was in this subdivision off of this street, and it was a 4-bedroom house, and the cat died. Yes. That's the story. I mean, it's not real complicated, but it takes a while. But thank you for the comment on helping young broadcasters. My high school radio station outside Detroit, WSDP in Plymouth, is coming up next year on celebrating 50 years on the air. 50. That's amazing for high school. High school. Holy mess. High school. You take auto shop or typing. Let's take radio and have a radio station. And that's how they judge people. We've got some serious. I've got general managers, television news anchors, of which there are many, and a program director for a company that used to be based out of Cincinnati that has a lot of radio stations. So yeah, they've done really, really well. I get back there every 3 or 4 years and meet as many of the kids as I can and say, listen, I was a nerdy, surprise, I was a nerdy 16-year-old, not Joey Reynolds kind of nerdy, but a nerdy 16-year-old, and here I am, and CBS and Fox are sending me all over the world to get killed. So I just go with that. Well, you were in LA at KFI, I believe. KNX FM. KNX. Yeah, that was that was another turning point. What did you do there? That was quite wonderful. Did you go to Vietnam from there? I remember you went to Vietnam for something. No, before my time. I got to KNX in 80. I'm going to guess 82, early 83, maybe. I was there 83. You were there for the hostage situation. Is that right? No. I went. There was something that was big that you went into the field for, like Indiana Jones. What was it when you went in with your microphone? Wait a minute. All right, you're not thinking Iraq in 03 or Iraq in 05. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Yeah, that was a little later. Los Angeles was, I found out that I couldn't say anything nasty about Tom, who was Jane Fonda married to all those years? Tom,
Hayden.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't make any jokes about him because that would upset people. I talked about President Reagan, and they didn't like the way I talked about the president. It's very difficult relating a 70-some-year-old man to a target demographic of 12 to 22-year-olds without, you know, being a little. You've got to use really colorful language to get Reagan in there. And you know, Reagan was pushing the Russians were the evil, the Soviets, still the Soviets, were the evil empire. And my bumper sticker on the car said Russia sucks because it fits better than the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics sucks.
Yes.
So when, let's see, Yuri Andropov was the premier or the president. I always get those confused in the Soviet Union. And he died. He just dropped dead one day.
They get it confused too.
Okay. And I said on the headline, 1 down and 260 million to go. That's accurate. It's accurate. I mean, if it's the evil empire, President Reagan, and we're pulling for this, that's good. I mean, that's all.
Someone get mad at that?
Yeah, I was. They considered me the loose cannon.
Well, yeah, you are. So what?
They knew it was. They knew I was when they hired me. But I enjoyed my trip to LA and met a lot of famous people. Got to see some stuff. When did you work in LA, Joey?
2 different times. You mean on the radio or in production? And I mean, I have another career, you know.
I know you have a little more distance to cover. I know. On the air, where were you?
Well, I spent some time on K-Earth, some time on KFI, and mostly KMPC, and the first satellite show in the country, which I did in 1978, 79, I think it was.
They had satellites back then?
Yeah, it was the first. I was the host of Satellite Live. You'd think I did hang from the ceiling with a hook. Yeah, we had satellite. It was. I'm
remembering somebody find the graphic of Al Franken with the little satellite dish on his football helmet. Let's put Joey's face in there, okay?
So then, what happened to you when you left there? You left L.A. and you went where?
I was singing like Jerry Jeff Walker. I can get off this L.A. freeway without getting killed or caught. I went to Texas and was there for about 5 years and enjoyed that. Really fell in love with the place.
Where in Texas?
KTSA in San Antonio.
Okay.
And Jay was in Dallas, right? Jay?
Yeah, I worked at KLIF as the morning host there, and they didn't like us because we was too New York.
Wait, you don't look like Ron Chapman. Hang on a second. Let me.
No, I don't look like
Ron
no,
Chapman.
I'm not Ron Chapman. No, he's had a storied career too.
He was a KLIF in Dallas. That was his career.
Back in the top 40 days. Yeah, I was there when it was a news talk station. So.
It's a guy that had only one job. I'd like to meet that person. One job all his life.
What finger is he holding up?
He actually worked at a couple of stations, 3 actually, if you want to be honest. 3 major ones. But yeah, anyway, we're talking about this Rob here. So.
Oh, wait, no, all right, now about Rob Milford. Now, Jay, you at this time you started a radio station in New Jersey that was Expose. You put talk on the air, and you removed a couple of governors, as a matter of fact, or at least you unseated them for a while. And you should have hired Rob, because he's right down your alley. How come you didn't know of him?
I'm sorry, I didn't at that point. I may have been aware of him, but I didn't know to seek him in that way. I wasn't the news director, I was the program director, but I should have been paying attention. He would have been perfect for that radio station.
And still is.
Yeah, in 1990, we decided to do a radio station about nothing but New Jersey. And a lot of people that know me know the story, but if you're watching this for the first time, you don't know who I am even. We went from worst place to first place within 60 days. And it was an amazing thing. And we became the voice of the state of New Jersey, which falls between New York and Philadelphia. And most of the media is consumed from those outlets. And we single-handedly destroyed every local AM station there was that covered news in their neighborhoods. We destroyed them within 6 months. And still to this day, that station is the 3rd ranked news talk station in New York, and actually it's the 2nd ranked one in Philadelphia.
So what were you doing? That was why would you all of a sudden go from last to first place in 60 days. Did you give money away or something?
No, no. We talked about New Jersey, which has an inferiority complex. And it's because it goes back to colonial times with Ben Franklin. And he knew that. In fact, Ben Franklin's son, they'll probably topple his monument any day now. He was loyal to the King of England, and he was the governor of New Jersey before it became New Jersey the way we know it. New Jersey has a very odd view of itself because it gets all of its information, or it did, from New York or Philadelphia, and a smattering of local newspapers that did well, but they don't do well anymore, obviously. So there was a giant hole for something like that, and we filled it. And we filled it very well by talking about things that were eye level to people, like tolls, like taxes, like things like that were going on. And once we captured that imagination, boy, it was nonstop. It's the 800-pound gorilla in New Jersey.
And so,
Absolutely.
Rob, you would have been perfect for that.
Oh.
Well, let's take a couple steps forward from that, Joey. Press Broadcasting owned New Jersey 101.5, and it still is a great radio station. And they had a consultant by the name of Walter Sabo.
Yes.
And Walter Sabo found me in Houston, Texas. And next thing I know, in 1993, I'm down here in Orlando, where I am now, Real Radio 104.1.
WTKS.
WTKS.
Yeah.
And WTKS, I don't know if its own mama would recognize it now, because it is the most unstructured talk station I've ever heard. They have a guy in the middle of the day called the News Junkie, and he's so underwhelming, and I have trouble listing the radio station. Jay, I got to tell you, it's such a disappointment. Even though it's been 25 years since I left there.
I'll tell you why. Because Walter is a genius like Joey, and he figured out what people needed, what people wanted. And, we did a major research study to find that out. Radio today is so damn boring, I want to blow my head off. There's nothing on. Right, Joey? There's nothing on. I mean, you could go up and down the dial, and at night all you hear is George Norrie talking about freaking UFOs. Freak UFOs. I don't care about UFOs. If they're going to beam me up, let them do it. I don't care.
But, when you do the talk business began in L.A. with a station that was run by a guy named Jack Thayer. And you know what he called the station? I mean, nobody thought to do this since, and they will now that I bring it up. It was called two-way radio.
Yeah.
Because it was answering phones and having people give their opinions.
Something you hate.
Two-way radio. Well, I hate it for me.
Yeah.
I don't hate it for the listener.
Right.
I don't hate people. I don't hate anything. I just don't want to do certain things.
Sure.
I like what I'm doing. And I don't want to be talked out of what I like unless it's wrong for everybody. I'm a social animal. And I'm not going to explain my whole self here, because then I'll take all the air out of the room. I am already. I'm outside. But, Rob Milford, to me, is the best newsman in the country. And that's why I wanted him on here today. And Jay, you are the best programmer unsung. Both of you, each of you. That's what I wanted to bring out. Behind Walt Sable was Jay Sorensen. Now, I mean, you work together, and I know you don't want to take anything away from Walt. He is a genius, and I don't mean to do that either, because he is very, very smart, and I like him a lot. As a matter of fact, I even cornered him at a convention in L.A. once, and it was the Bonaventure Hotel, and there's a series of flags on the fountains, and I dipped my hand in the fountain and went and washed my hands on the flag. You talk about taking a knee.
Wow.
This is what I did for broadcasting back then, and it was with Walt Sabo, and I got right in his face. But that doesn't mean I don't like him. It means that I don't like what he does for me. What happened to Rob? Is he still with us?
There I am. Hi.
All right. Now Rob to me is a guy that belongs in the Hall of Fame of daring news people who have got on the air. First of all, he's honest, he's thorough, and I could do his resume. And the same with you, Jay. You know, when you take honest people and you put them in broadcasting, we kind of forget that this is a show. You know, I mean, it's, and I'm reminded of it often. I had Bert Sherwood was talking to me yesterday. He's 90-something years old now. And he was a manager of so many, I mean, he's been a celebrated guy from when he was a disc jockey at WMCA in New York as a kid, all the way to president of NBC. You know, I mean, he was a very, very big guy. And so Bert and I were talking yesterday, and he said, I always wanted to hire you, but I couldn't never hire you. And I said, why not? He said, because you were unmanageable. And I said, what was I? He said, you were a radio management nightmare. I said, but I was a radio listener's dream.
Yes.
I was a nightmare to you guys, but I was a dream to the audience. And so the audience wants to dream. They love imagination. They love creativity. The audience even like they embrace Howard Stern for a while, you know, because he was outrageous. That's why.
But it's a show. It's a show.
Exactly.
Yes.
Even Simon Cowell on America's Got Talent. That's a show. I mean, these guys sit there and they're judging everybody else, but the real show. Do you notice that when they have talent? I'm using this as an example, then I'll get off of this. You know, when you're watching America's Got Talent, they always show you the act. Then they take the camera to the jury. They keep showing the guy on the side who makes faces, that Nick or whatever the hell his name is this year, and then all those judges sit there and they keep showing you the judges and Simon's expressions. It's a show about the judges. It's not about the talent.
Amen. Yeah, it is.
They're doing all this made famous anyway, frankly, many of them. But it's a circus, you know. And it sure is. That's all. I mean, you know, where's the sawdust? Hello, it's a three-ring circus. Now, that being the case, now I will defer to you with this, Rob. You've always been a straight shooter with the news. The news is sacred to you.
It is. It really is.
It's not entertainment. I mean, the presentation may be colorful, but the news has to be factual. Am I right or wrong?
100% true.
All right. And so you've delivered that. And these little mental midgets that run these organizations, they never understood the difference. They don't know the difference, the wisdom to know the difference. You know, I mean, I don't think you've ever violated anybody in the audience that I could think of. Have you ever pissed off anybody on the air and told them off? You know that. Wait a minute. I just thought of this in Dallas. Rod Roddy was on Cliff in Dallas.
Yes.
He told Miss America off. He said, you're a fake, you're a phony, you're not even that attractive to me. Of course, he was gay. But he said, you know, there's nothing going on with you in the world that's attractive. And she wound up throwing coffee on him. And he went to the Parkland Hospital, which is where Kennedy was taken after his shooting, after he got killed or shot.
Yeah.
So, you know, Rod was a showman. And he was trying to provoke her so he could get some entertainment for the audience. Now, that's not you.
No,
that would be me.
Oh, yeah? Is that what you do?
Yes.
Now, you know, the difference is that you have integrity with your news broadcasting. So what's missing in news right now that you would put there?
Truth, justice, and the American way. And apparently those are three bad things that when I hear of newspaper staffs revolting against their management, we don't like that op-ed in the New York Times, so an editor of the New York Times has to get fired because the employees protested this. But they go the Tom Cotton op-ed. That's the tail wagging the dog. That's the fleas on the tail of the dog wagging the dog, and there's no excuse for that. And television is only showing the violence and the fires and the actual rioting, and they're not showing how solutions are coming to these towns all over America, if in fact solutions are coming. They've done a terrible job covering everything from COVID-19, and I'm kind of really glad, Joey, I'm sort of sitting this out. To tell you the truth, maybe some common sense will be injected when we all get our COVID vaccines late this year or next year, and I'm not even sure what's going to happen next week. You heard Texas locked everybody down as of today. I think that's going to come for other states. That's going to cost the economy. A lot of business is going to go away.
Do you agree with me with this, that this COVID spike came from young people marching and not following the guidelines. Because now the spike is with 30-something-year-olds.
Yeah, and
partying.
And partying, Joey. It's not just that, but it's probably a big part of it, no doubt. I think.
Why doesn't anybody talk about it? Because
Joey, after you riot, you got to go have a kegger. You know, you got to go chill, kegger, fire a few fat ones up. I mean, that's part of the process. So on that happy thought, I think we're getting the high five signal from your director.
No, you're not getting anything at all. You're not getting anything. This is a timeless zone. Yeah, we're here for solutions, not to live up to somebody selling something. That's the advantage of this show. I'm not. You know, they're actually interrupting. IMDb is Amazon Prime, and they're actually putting commercials on there now. Commercials on the motion pictures that used to be that you paid for on a monthly subscription. Now they put spots on there. People cannot refrain from having somebody interrupt whatever the flow is to sell some crap. And it all is crap. I mean, Cheetos, the guys that's got the dirty hands from the Cheetos, from the stain of those fake cheeses that they use.
Yes.
You know, I mean, they're doing that on television like it's a badge of honor that your hand is orange.
And pretty soon there'll be a pill for that too. Just be American. Just be a person.
That's what I'm saying. But nobody wants to talk that way either because they're afraid. It's an election year. They want to be famous. They want to be loved. They want your money, but they don't tell you that. And you know, like the airlines with what they're doing with that middle seat that they're filling now, they want stockholders to love them. But we do have to have a strong Wall Street. So there is that other balance. You know, I mean, you got to have commerce.
You have to have commerce. Yes.
I mean, we'd be throwing tea in the harbor again. But what I think, if anybody remembers that in this audience, they would know it. It's history.
Exactly. I think that is the biggest problem that we're facing right now. People who are taking down certain statues and doing these unheard of things up until recently don't have a sense of history. That bugs me. And it bugs the hell out of me that everyone has the opportunity to learn when you're in school. Some people choose not to.
Well, you know, the guy from Marvel Comics, you know who he is? He just died this last year.
Dan Lee?
Yeah, well, I thought it was his statue, but it was General Lee they took down. I thought Spider-Man was going to take his statue down. Yeah. And anyway, listen to this. CBS closed their news department in Washington, D.C. now. They have closed their news bureau. Did you know that?
I did not, no.
Yeah, so they did
it just happen?
Yeah.
Well, wait, Joey, hold on.
Oh, you know, I know the inside because I know the guy who's running it.
No, Joey, Nora O'Donnell is doing the nightly news from CBS Bureau on M Street. My friend Bill Rakoff is anchoring network overnight radio from there.
Not working. They closed the Washington Bureau. Do your homework when you leave the broadcast today.
All right.
And you know, they got rid of Jeff Gore, who happens to be from Buffalo. He's a good bowler, too. Jeff Gore was the news guy before her, and that didn't work. And the guy that does the top 40 news, I think he's on CKLW, the one on ABC. What's his name? That Tom.
Oh yeah, the guy with the mannequin. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, but that's the top 40 news, you know, and we'll be back with more stories. Here's how
five beheaded people found on the 7 Mile highway.
You want to bust their chops with the network on all 3 of them?
Yeah.
The first 10 minutes is news, and then between every story is a commercial.
That's right.
True.
It is.
And
they spend more time on the tease than they do on the story.
It's an art. It's an art. We've made it an art.
It's not at all. It's a bother. And you know, if you keep interrupting me anymore, not you, Jay. You know,
I do that all the time.
I love you. You can interrupt me anytime. I think that Rob would be the perfect news anchor.
Yes.
I really do, because he would be himself. You don't care about losing anything.
Yeah.
And now let's talk about Iraq for a minute. When you went over there. All right.
Yeah, twice.
Tell me, what did you do?
I got shot at a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Why did you go there?
Because I always thought that was a place that a reporter would really, you know, you really put it on the line there. You're recovering now. I was one of the embedded reporters. They were all over the place. I rode on a tank into Baghdad, whatever that was, 600 or so miles. and did that March and April of 2003.
Now, what did you get out of it? What did you get from it?
I got a nice lunch when I got back to New York. I was paid okay for it. And a couple of years later, Fox said, hey, you want to go cover the elections at the end of '05? And that was good because I needed a break after I'd covered 6 hurricanes, Cindy, Dennis, Katrina, Rita, Wilma, and another hurricane as well in '05, including 6 weeks in Katrina in New Orleans. So that was, Iraq was a nice break.
Oh, man.
So when you came back to New York for Fox, what did they do?
Nothing.
Why didn't they put you on television? That's a good question. I don't know
because I'm a radio guy. That's why I got a face for radio.
Oh, that's bull.
Well, I know, but they don't. So that's it.
Larry King had a body for radio. So what?
That's about it.
I mean, it's got nothing to do with it. What has to do with it is your integrity in the news. Now, would you anchor a television newscast right now on network television?
No.
Why not?
Why?
Because here's my main problem with the news business, the news business. The epicenter of the world is New York City. Ask them, they'll tell you. The product you see on the air is epicentered and focused on New York City. You'll notice that Jay did well by focusing on New Jersey. If you're going to do a national news, international news program, having it New York centric is not the thing to do. Having all of the editors, the writers, the editors, the producers, all are New York centric. They went to Syracuse, they went to Ithaca, they went to Columbia. That's New York centric. I'm not worried about where they go to temple or church or anything like that, but they're New York centric. They live in New York. Therefore, they think that the center of the universe is New York City, and it's not. When I was at ABC News in the early 1980s in New York at, let's see, that was 1926 Broadway, as a matter of fact, right across from the theater there. They said, what would you do if you had Paul Harvey's job? Paul was, at that time, was approaching 65. They thought it was mandatory retirement. And they said, what would you do? I said, well, I'd keep it out of New York, maybe go to Washington, keep it at maybe Atlanta, go to Dallas. Why those 2 cities? That's going to be the Sun Belt. This is the early 80s. I said, that's where the biggest growth in America is going to be over the next 30 years. They said, what else? I said, I'm not sure about the limo and the Learjet. They said, those are time machines. I mean, I thought it through a little while longer, and I'm okay, yeah, that's fine. But you wanted to have people that were more reflective of the entire nation as opposed to people that live on the island of Manhattan or go under or over the rivers to get to the island of Manhattan every day. The America would be better served if there were fewer news people in New York. But the people that make the decisions, the people that have the editorial judgment are in New York. They see things from their window. They're not in Topeka, Kansas. They're not in Racine, Wisconsin, or somewhere in Wyoming where there are no people. But that's another story.
With due respect, Ted Turner chose Atlanta.
Yes,
he chose Atlanta. So he had that vision.
He didn't want to move.
No.
I think very, very little of CNN actually comes from Atlanta anymore. Very little.
Very little comes from intelligence.
Very little news comes from CNN anymore too. And when
it's not intelligent, it's just simply an ad. It's addictions. It's a democratic addiction, and the Fox addiction, that foxhole. I mean, we have a country of mental midgets, and they are. I mean, people who are addicted to Trump, they're addicted to him, like he was. I don't know I don't know. I can't talk anybody out of him at all, ever.
Joe, you're saying it like that's a bad thing, but that's what those people want. See, yeah. Jay, let's go back to Jay. Jay focused on New Jersey.
Right.
Rupert Murdoch understood. I understood demographic news. Walter Sabo did, and Rupert Murdoch said, "Let's take it from demographic to the political spectrum, and let's focus on this side of the aisle." And when you look at the 2 shows, the 2 newscasts, they cover a story. It's the same story, and it's a completely different set of facts. Right. They're entitled to their opinion. They're not entitled to separate facts, and that's both sides have now really, really split in terms of where the focus is, and the facts are what they want them to be, not what they really are.
But everybody gets their information today. When I say everybody, it's a vast generalization, from the phone. From the phone. You get it from Twitter feeds, you get it from Facebook, you get it from a number of outlets. And Facebook, we talked about that earlier in the discussion. they're having a real issue right now, and they're going to be labeling all rule-breaking posts, even Donald Trump's. You know, the fact that they said even Donald Trump's, it shows that there's a bias immediately as soon as you say the word.
Well, you mentioned earlier, Rob, in this conversation, you mentioned Reagan being an old man in his 70s. You got an old man running for office now. And this is not a country for old men. I think that's a movie.
It's a good movie, and it's sad. When you think about the last two Democratic presidents were both elected by the time, sorry about that, that both those guys were elected, both Obama and Clinton, in their 50s. And now we have two white guys over the age of 70. Hey, way to go, Democratic Party being diverse. That's one of the things I would point right there. So you have no idea what kind of vice president. A lot of Republicans are saying maybe Mike Pence should have a nice, lovely parting gift and find somebody else to be the vice president, because I think it's going to be important, no matter who the president is, that we have a really strong vice president, not somebody who just introduces him at rallies and such like that. And I'm sure
how about a committee? How about the proverbial saying that a camel is a horse made by a committee?
Hey,
right. We're not going to do that. Not going to do that.
Why don't we have? If Trump is so good with money, and the other guy is so good with people and black people, why don't we have the money guy and the black people guy get together? Why don't we all get together?
That would be the dual presidency that was talked about at one point. Remember, back in the 70s, I think it was.
What's wrong with that? What doesn't work there? What doesn't work?
It's not in the Constitution. Let me go close my office door. The dogs are barking. I'll be right back. It's not the Constitution. That's kind of important.
I think I have the idea he's not coming back. I think
he's already upset with us.
Let the dogs out. Who let the dogs out?
It's who let the dogs in.
Right.
The dogs were outside. Why not somebody let them in?
Back to the question: would you be a newsman on television network, or where if you were going to take a shot right now and help America in the area of telling the truth on the air and delivering the news as it exists, besides the police blotter, where would you go?
I would replace Paul Harvey. Nobody replaced Paul Harvey. There was a guy that would have been perfect for it by the name of Joe Halstead in Dallas, but he died. And I would replace Paul Harvey, except I'd have probably 2 newscasts in the morning and then have another one for middays. But I don't think radio programmers are smart enough to block out 7 or 10 or 15 minutes for a newscast. There's plenty of content there, but you need somebody with the delivery and the writing ability, and that really can hit it and make it.
And who's not biased. Gil Gross did it for a while, if you recall. Gil
he filled in. Right.
I know Gil from many years ago, but he, if you go on his Facebook, oh my gosh, Trump is the Beelzebub.
Well, am I too old for what I'm doing here?
Hell no.
What are you doing, Joe? What are you doing?
Just hosting a little conversation. Is this? Am I over the hill for that?
Well, no. Unlike Larry King, the top of your pants is not at your throat yet. Okay, so that's good.
The Fred Mertz look, where your pants are up to here.
So, I mean, is that what it is? Is it a cosmetic thing where you have to look and have big titties to do the news and weather? That's what they do in Florida. All these girls, put them.
Yeah, but they have big breasts, and they have the butt that's shaped and contoured a certain way.
Yeah, not that it's a bad idea, but
no, it's not a bad idea at all.
What does that have to do with a hurricane?
It has nothing to do with it.
So that's what we're doing. I mean, we're doing showbiz. Am I too old for this job?
I don't think so.
No.
Why is it? Why do we have ageism then? Why are we so prejudiced about age? Why do I have to be Ryan Seacrest, who's also old now?
Yeah. You want the ageism? They made Walter Cronkite out the door at CBS when he hit 65. Dan Rather stayed until he was 70, I think 73 or 74. So that's why we had Dan Rather at the network for so long. People were afraid of him, as opposed to saying, well, gee, and they wanted the ratings, which obviously proved to be a really stupid idea. But, poor CBS, ever since Dan Rather, Katie Couric, really? I mean, I never thought she had any gravitas, but the quotes like this will come back to bite me in the ass. She's real cute.
How about Gayle King in the morning? Everything's always black.
No, she's Oprah's friend, so therefore she's under this force field of Oprah that nothing can touch her.
Well, it's just disturbing that nobody wants to say the things we're saying here on the air. They want to practice inclusion by denial, and then they're afraid of being killed. Probably, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Then Joey, I have a little problem, and I feel really bad about this. I'm working off my phone today, and my phone is losing its charge, and I've just had the bulletin. Next time I drop out, it will be gone. So before it gets too much later, I wanted to say thank you for having me on your show. And if I wear a nicer shirt, maybe you'll have me back sometime.
I like that.
I'll have my laptop working and do it right.
I want that shirt, by the way.
And you're fine. You're fine. I just want to see you on the air and hear you on the air. We need you.
I'm glad we can do this talk show. I mean, I thought you were going to fly me to Miami, and I'm waiting for Uber to pick me up, and nothing.
You'd be quarantined. So
Great seeing you.
Rob Milford.
Great talking with you.
Yeah, and Rob Milford. I guess you're going to go to Jersey and work for Jay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Wait, is Jay still working there? I'm Jay.
No. I flew the coop in 1999.
Good man.
So, yeah.
Good man. Is that when Press Broadcasting sold out?
Yes. Well, actually, a little later they did, but yeah.
All right. So, Rob, how do we get in touch with you if we want to hire you?
Yeah, we want to get a brick too.
You got a website?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
rob.milford@gmail.com. rob.milford@gmail.com.
Is that a capital R and two B's, or one B and a small R?
Capital R, little 1B. Yeah, that's it.
Capital R-O-B, capital R, small O, small B, right?
I'm completely confused now, Joey.
Yeah, everybody is. That's
ageism.
That's right.
Thank you, Rob Milford, and also Jay. You're always such a good friend.
Thank
and
you.
a loyal friend too. I would have quit a long time ago if I were you. All right. So, as the head of the Council on Abuse for the radio and television industry, I would like to say, let a smile be your umbrella, but don't get a mouthful of crap.